Have you ever noticed that some conversations leave you feeling completely exhausted, even when you haven't done anything physically demanding? You hang up the phone, close the chat, or walk away from the interaction, and somehow your energy is gone. Your focus is scattered, your mood has shifted, your peace has disappeared. If this sounds familiar, there is a strong possibility that you have become someone's emotional dumping ground. One of the biggest reasons men lose their confidence, clarity, and masculine edge has nothing to do with money, status, fitness, or success. It happens when they slowly begin carrying emotional burdens that do not belong to them. They become the person others unload onto whenever they feel stressed, frustrated, anxious, angry, confused, or overwhelmed. Over time, they stop being a partner, a leader, or an equal and instead become an emotional trash can. The uncomfortable truth is that every time you absorb emotional chaos without boundaries, you surrender a piece of your psychological authority. You stop leading your own life and start managing someone else's emotional instability. Many men have been taught that being supportive means being endlessly available. They believe that love requires absorbing every emotional storm, listening to every complaint, solving every crisis, and sacrificing their own peace whenever someone else feels uncomfortable. While support is healthy, emotional absorption is not. There is a major difference between helping someone navigate a difficult moment and becoming responsible for regulating their emotional state. Unfortunately, many men don't recognize that difference until years of accumulated stress have already taken a toll on them. At first, it feels noble. You tell yourself that you are helping. You convince yourself that you are being understanding, compassionate, and patient. But slowly, something begins to change. Your emotional state becomes dependent on theirs. If they are calm, you are calm. If they are upset, you become upset. If they are anxious, you feel anxious. If they are angry, your entire day gets disrupted. Without realizing it, you have stopped operating from your own center. You have started living from theirs. This is where the masculine frame begins to erode. A strong masculine frame is psychological self-governance. It means your thoughts, emotions, actions, and decisions are guided by your values, your purpose, and your standards. It means you remain grounded regardless of what is happening around you. The moment another person's emotional turbulence begins controlling your internal state, your frame starts collapsing. Instead of leading your life, you become reactive to theirs. What makes this dynamic even more dangerous is that it often operates beneath conscious awareness. Many high conflict personalities do not intentionally set out to manipulate people. In many cases, emotional dumping is a subconscious coping mechanism. Rather than learning to regulate their own emotions, they seek external regulation. They look for someone who will absorb their stress, anxiety, frustration, and confusion. If you are always available, always listening, always rescuing, and always fixing, you become the easiest outlet. Think about what happens over time. Every moment of stress gets transferred to you. Every emotional crisis becomes your responsibility. Every frustration becomes something you are expected to process. Because the transfer provides temporary relief, the behavior becomes reinforced. They feel better after unloading while you carry the burden. The cycle repeats again and again until it becomes the default pattern in the relationship. The irony is that this arrangement harms both people. You become exhausted, distracted, and emotionally depleted, while they become increasingly dependent on external regulation. The more you absorb for them, the less they develop the emotional resilience necessary to manage themselves. What feels like support eventually becomes a crutch, and crutches weaken everyone involved. This is where many men need to ask themselves a difficult question. Are you leading your life, or are you managing someone else's emotional emergencies? There is a significant difference between leadership and emotional caretaking. Leaders create stability. Emotional caretakers absorb instability. Unfortunately, many men confuse the two. They believe leadership requires endless tolerance and unlimited availability. In reality, leadership requires standards. It requires boundaries. It requires protecting your mental environment from unnecessary chaos. A man with a strong frame does not chase emotional storms. He does not negotiate with chaos. He does not allow himself to be consumed by drama. Instead, he remains centered. His peace is not dependent on someone else's mood. His direction is not determined by someone else's emotional fluctuations. That stability creates respect because people naturally gravitate toward strength, certainty, and emotional discipline. The solution begins with boundaries. Boundaries are not walls designed to keep people out. They are filters designed to protect what matters most. Your attention, energy, focus, and peace are valuable resources. They should not be available to everyone at all times. One of the most important shifts a man can make is moving from passive listener to active guardian of his psychological environment. This means understanding that you are not responsible for regulating another adult's emotions. You can listen, you can empathize, you can support, but you cannot become responsible for carrying emotional weight that belongs to someone else. Healthy relationships involve mutual responsibility, not emotional dependency. Sometimes this requires difficult conversations. Instead of endlessly listening to repetitive complaints, you begin asking solution-focused questions. Instead of participating in emotional loops, you encourage accountability. Instead of sacrificing your peace to maintain temporary harmony, you establish standards for how interactions will take place. This shift often feels uncomfortable initially because people become accustomed to having unlimited access to your attention. However, discomfort is often the first sign that boundaries are working. When boundaries are repeatedly ignored, withdrawal becomes necessary. This is not punishment, it is protection. Sometimes the healthiest response is creating physical distance, ending an unproductive conversation, or stepping away from digital communication until emotions settle. Your attention should be earned through respect and responsibility, not demanded through emotional chaos. One of the most powerful tools available to a man during these moments is strategic silence. Most people believe strength means reacting. They believe strength means defending, explaining, arguing, or proving themselves. In reality, strength often means refusing to engage in destructive cycles. Emotional manipulation requires participation. Without participation, the cycle loses power. Strategic silence is not passive aggression, it is emotional discipline. It communicates that you refuse to sacrifice your peace for chaos. It demonstrates that your emotional state cannot be controlled through pressure, guilt, drama, or volatility. When you stop feeding emotional storms with your energy, those storms eventually lose momentum. An interesting thing happens when you stop carrying emotions that do not belong to you. Responsibility returns to its rightful owner. The other person is forced to confront their own internal state. They must learn self-regulation. They must develop resilience. They must take ownership of their reactions. While this process can be uncomfortable, it is often necessary for genuine growth to occur. The energy you reclaim through strong boundaries should not simply sit idle. It should be invested into your mission. Invest it into your health, invest it into your career, invest it into your skills, invest it into your finances, invest it into your purpose. A man with direction is difficult to manipulate because his attention is anchored to something greater than temporary emotional turbulence. The strongest masculine frame is not built through dominance or aggression. It is built through clarity, discipline, and purpose. It is built when a man chooses his mission over drama, his standards over emotional chaos, and his long-term growth over short-term emotional comfort. Instead of asking how to fix everyone around him, he begins asking how to become the strongest version of himself. The truth is that your mental frame is either growing stronger or weaker every day. There is no neutral position. Every time you absorb chaos without boundaries, your frame weakens. Every time you protect your psychological environment, your frame strengthens. The man who commands respect is not the one who tolerates the most drama. He is the one who maintains the most stability. Support is healthy. Compassion is healthy. Love is healthy. But becoming an emotional dumping ground serves nobody. Not you, not the other person, not the relationship. Strong men are not emotional sponges. They are emotional anchors. They remain calm under pressure. They maintain standards during conflict. They protect their mental clarity in the midst of chaos. The moment you stop carrying emotions that do not belong to you is the moment you begin reclaiming your strength. And when you reclaim your strength, you reclaim your focus, your confidence, your purpose, and your future. That is where true masculine authority begins. That is where genuine self-respect is built. And that is how a man becomes truly unshakable.